It's 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. My name is Sandy Price, and I chair the CCTVS committee. It stands for County, City, Towns, Villages, and Schools. It was set up a lot of years ago in order to enhance communication between all of those entities. We try to have monthly meetings. This is our first one for this year, and I want to welcome all of you here. I'd like to start with introductions. We'll go around the room and speak. If you'd like to be on our mailing list behind the guy who's filming, you can add your name and email and address, and Jeremy will put you on our list. And we'll do introductions, and then we'll get started.
Okay. I'm John Troy, Legislature. I'm Vice Chair of the Solid Waste Committee.
Tom Hartnett, Legislator, Chair of the Waste Committee.
Don Chambers, County Highway Superintendent.
Then
Martin Murphy, County Administrator.
Ed Snyder, Environmental Lawyer.
we'll start right here in front.
Stephen Ferlin, Town of Solon Supervisor.
Paul Hyder, Councilperson, Town of Sullivan.
Sandy Doty, Supervisor, Town of Willett.
Andrew Fuller, Town of Scott, Councilman.
Newell Wilcox, Legislator.
Linda Frank, resident of Homer.
Jeremy Boylan, Clerk of the Legislature.
Catherine Wild, Cortland County.
Skip Chapman, Cortland County. Mike Petrola, Town Councilman, Town of Solon. Chuck Norton, DPW Foreman of Village McGraw.
Harry Bridger, Bridger Lake Company, resident of Portland.
Mary Faith Miller, citizen. Kathy Arnold, former legislator, now citizen. She says with a smile.
Jim Dankenberger, legislator for Trucks and Kyler and Solon, and on the Solid Waste Committee.
Nicole Algrove, Truxton Town Councilperson.
Carter Bryan, resident of the City of Portland.
Rayla Dole, county legislator, also on the solid waste committee. Linda Ferguson, 7th Ward alderperson.
Brian Tobin, Mayor for the city.
Linda Smith, I live in Marathon and also Chief of Staff for Assemblywoman Barbara Lipton.
Matt O'Rourke, I'm a board member for Village McGraw.
Susan Briggs, Chair of the Legislature.
Charles Sudbury, Legislator, District 17.
Jan Dempsey, City of Cortland resident.
Althea Hyder, Solon resident.
Mary Hyder, Solon resident.
Victor Siegel, Homer resident.
Eric Mulvihill, WXHC Radio.
Mary Ann DeSenza, legislator.
Donald Boyden, Legislator.
Kim Truxton. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Russell Smith, Town of Kyler Councilman.
And Kevin Fish, Town Supervisor, Town of Scott.
And,
Megan Nagle, United Voices of Cortland.
okay,
And Eddie Rodriguez at Siegel County, videographer.
okay. I would like to thank Supervisor Kevin Fitch for suggesting tonight's topic. Thank you, Kevin. And by the attendance, I see that it was a good choice. We do try to do topics of interest, and towards the end, if we have time, we'll talk about future meetings and what those topics might be. We set a 1-hour limit for our meetings, and that's to encourage people to come and know that they're not going to have to bring their sleeping bags. So we have 1 hour set aside for the topic tonight. The first 30 minutes, we'll have a presentation. If you would hold your questions and comments until after they are done, then we'll try to address each one of them as we can. If I'm thinking that might take about 15 or 20 minutes. We know how plans go though, right? And then the last 10 minutes we use as a round table if we have time. And that we go around and you may talk about anything that you want and whatever's on your mind, and then we use that information to develop future programs, and also we might have, somebody else might have an answer to your question if you have one that they've experienced in their municipality. So that's the format for tonight. And so we'll sit back and be educated on what's happening in Cortland County with the Ashford trash. And I'll turn it over to John
Okay, I guess I'm gonna do most of the talking, and please, anyone chime in on the panel up here if you have anything to add. I'm a career educator, so I love to talk, so I'll keep going from that. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what the solid waste fund is, the challenges we've had financially with the fund, the legislative efforts to date to address the fund, what ash for trash is, what the benefits are, what the detriments are, and any alternatives that we foresee if the ash for trash deal does not go through. So I'll start out with the solid waste fund. The solid waste fund covers the landfill, the recycling center, and the debt service. And over the last several years, this fund has been losing money. It's an enterprise fund that's supposed to be making money, but we're losing money on the fund, mainly through the debt service. It varies over the years, but on average, we're losing about $450,000. By law, we've got to replenish the funds, and we have to take it, the only way we can do it is take the money from the general funds. So we've been taking on average $450,000 from the general fund to put into this fund every year. That's about 1.5% of the collected taxes in the county, $450,000. Now, although this has been happening for quite a while, the legislature really became aware of this in May of 2009. We got a report, Tom has it tonight, from the Ensol Company, and that kind of, legislators were aware of it, but they really put it to the forefront. The report was very good. It looked at everything throughout the landfill and gave us a lot of alternatives. And over the next 2.5 years, the legislature sort of investigated ways that we could make this landfill profitable, or at least not lose so much money. And the first thing we discussed was just raising the tipping fees. You know, that seems to be a simple process. We charge $60 per ton. We haven't raised it since 1991. And some of the counties around us are a little bit higher. But unfortunately, there's some private landfills in the Rochester area that are huge landfills that charge as low as $35 a ton. And right now, we've got some of the bigger haulers that are taking their trash out of the county to this place that's a lot cheaper than us. So we thought that if we raise the tipping fees, we would lose volume and we wouldn't really gain very much by doing that. So we kind of dismissed that one. The second thing we talked about briefly was either selling or leasing the facility. And there's a lot of liabilities with it. You lose control of what's coming in. And we really didn't have much interest in doing that. The third thing we talked about was flow control. There didn't seem to be much support on the legislatures. We ran it through a couple of times. We really didn't get a lot of support. There's a lot of issues with that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. The fourth thing we did is we explored some alternative methods. We talked about gasification, composting. We really have too small of a facility to do anything with those things, so we couldn't come to anything with that. And then the fifth thing we did was talked about importing trash from outside the county. We had a vote, and it failed, I think, by 3 votes to import the trash. A lot of people were concerned about environmental issues, bringing trash in. We didn't know what was going to be in there. We had another vote a little bit later on. We made the importation, we limited it to the 7 counties that were contiguous to Cortland County. That fell by 1 vote, but I voted no on both of those issues because I thought, I didn't like the environmental impacts that came with the county. So after going through all this, we were kind of at a stalemate. And part of the problem was the solid waste was done in the highway committee. And the highway committee usually had a long agenda. We did highway stuff, airport things, and the solid waste sort of came at the end. It'd be an hour or so meeting. We couldn't get very much done. We did have a couple special meetings with the legislature to deal with it, but we really couldn't get very much movement on this. So in 2012, the Solid Waste Committee was formed just to address those issues. And the Solid Waste Committee did do a couple things. We went from the recycling center, we went from dual stream recycling to single stream, which helps a little bit. We also got a law passed that allows us to accept bud materials from outside our county. And that helped a little bit financially, but it was a drop in the bucket. We weren't really going anywhere. Now, we were going along, and in 2013, there were 2 new issues that made this even more problematic for us. And the first thing is that we have a cell up at the landfill that's near capacity. Don has been doing a good job massaging it, putting a little stuff in there so that we don't have to cap it. But we came to the conclusion that in 2014, sometime this year, we're going to have to close it and cap it. That's expensive. We don't have any money in the reserve fund. We're going to have to go out to bond for it. When those bond payments become due, that $450,000 loss is going to go up even more. And the second thing that came up is the DEC is coming up with these Part 360 regulations that are going to be forcing every landfill, even the smaller ones like Cortland County, to adhere to some of the rules. And one of the rules is that food waste from the college and different places are no longer going to be able to be deposited into the landfill. They're going to have to be composted. We're going to have to build a new facility to compost those. It's going to require staffing, the facility, some equipment and stuff. It's going to be very, very expensive. The second thing is construction debris. They're no longer going to accept construction debris up at the landfill. And again, we're going to have a facility to grind this stuff down. It's more staffing and so on. It's going to, again, much more expenses for the county. And the third thing is our trash landfill right now produces methane. We're flaring it right now. They're going to require all landfills to do something with it, maybe convert it into electricity. And we're really too small of a landfill. It's going to be a big expense, and we're not going to get very much out of it. So with all these things coming down, Mr. Murphy has estimated that over the next 18 years, it's going to cost the taxpayers $31 million. And that's a low approximation to pay for all those things along with the debt we've already have. So $31 million, that's out of taxpayer money. So we really have to do something. Now, fortunately, we kind of fell into this ash for trash situation. Mr. Chambers was at a meeting with people from Okra and got talking to them, and they found out that their facility up in Onondaga County has lost volume over the years. You know, they've lost industry and people are recycling better and so on. So their volume has gone down. And when Don was talking to them, it was a match. So what we collect in our landfill pretty much matches with the loss of volume that they have up at their facility. So he kind of got interested in that. And Don brought it back and he ran it to Mr. Murphy, myself, and Mike Park, who was the chair of the legislature at the time. And we got exploring some talks with Onondaga County, see if they were going to, if they were on board with it, if it was going to be feasible for us. And I have to admit, the first time they talked about ash, I said, no way, I don't want to have ash coming into the county. I'm thinking of ash as fireplace ash, and I've heard all these nasty things about it. I was very opposed to it for the same reason I was opposed to importing trash. But after I've looked at all the tests and stuff, now I'm on board. I don't see it as a negative anymore. We talked for about half a year with Onondaga County and the Okra officials, and when we thought we had a nice match that was beneficial to both counties, we announced it to both of our legislatures, and we had a dual press conference in August where we signed an agreement to pursue the deal. Nothing committed, but just that both counties were going to pursue the deal, okay? So what does it actually mean, the ash for trash? Well, haulers and individuals are still going to take all their trash up to our facility. Nothing will change. It'll be a little bit easier. Instead of driving onto the landfill part, they're going to be able to dump it into a transfer station. It'll be a little bit easier for them. And we're still going to be able to, the plans are we're still going to be able to charge $60 a ton, not be able to raise it up. But instead of being compacted and pushed into the landfill, every bit of our trash is going to be transported up to Onondaga County and burned for waste. So we're not going to have 1 ounce more of trash deposited in that landfill. It's all going to be converted to energy. Onondaga County is going to be bringing the ash from their facility in their trucks down to our landfill and dumping the ash and then picking up the trash at the transfer station and taking it up to their facility. So there's no transportation by the county involved. We're basically going to be exchanging all of our trash for the ash that is burnt from the trash for energy. Now, how do we get any money out of this? Well, we get about 23,000 tons of trash every year on average. And Onondaga County figures are going to be getting about 88,000 tons of ash with our extra amount. So it's about a $60,000 to $65,000 ton difference, and they're gonna pay us for that, on that 60 to 65,000 tons. It's gonna be an amount that we're negotiating. We haven't come up with a final figure yet, but it's gonna give us a lot of revenue. Besides the extra revenue, right now, the DEC requires us to cover the landfill every day with some sort of cover. We use shale. We have to mine the shale. It's expensive and time-consuming to mine the shale. It's put on top of the landfill, and the next day it becomes part of the landfill, taking up valuable space. With the ash has been approved by the DEC for cover. So we're not going to have to use the shale anymore. We can use the ash for cover. It's going to save a lot of money in our operational costs. We're not going to have to use a compactor anymore because the ash is compact, and it's going to save us a lot of money in operation. The next thing it's going to do is that Onondaga County has a state-of-the-art composting facility. They're going to be taking all of our food waste up to their facility. So we're not going to have to go to the expense of building anything. They're going to take it right up there and treat it, and we're going to save the sad expense. Same thing with the construction debris. They're going to be taking, as part of the plan, they're going to be taking all their construction debris up to their facility, and we're going to avoid all of those expenses. And then the last thing is ash produces no methane. So when we put the ash into the landfill, there's going to be no methane. Now, there's still going to be some from the trash that we have in there right now, but we're thinking that the DEC, with what little methane's coming out of there, is going to relax on what they're going to require us to do in terms of the methane, so we're going to save a lot of money on that. Mr. Murphy's estimated that if we do this ash for trash deal, we not only won't need to take $31 million out of the taxes to cover it, but we should have a $7 to $8 million surplus into that fund. So it's approximately worth $40 million over the next 18 years to the county. And that's the finances. How about environmental? Well, right now we have a trash landfill. Trash landfills are very, very low on the scale of what the DEC approves. In theory, it's not bad, but you know as well as I do, people sneak in batteries, chemicals, mercury, things, lead, all this kind of stuff into the landfill, and it becomes a toxic methane there. It produces a lot of methane, as I said earlier. It produces an awful lot of leachate. The leachate has to be taken to the city wastewater treatment plant. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes it's easy to treat, sometimes it isn't. They've had batches which have been impossible to treat. It's a nasty leachate. On windy days, as people around there know, there's bags and papers that blow all over into the woods around there. And as I said, right now we have to cover it with shale, which is expensive and takes a lot of space. Ash landfills are higher up on the DEC's list of landfills. The ash has been approved not only for disposal, but as I said, it's been approved as daily cover. And although there are ash facilities where the ash has been tested and it shows high levels of lead, mercury, or other metals, we're very lucky in that this Onondaga County facility is run very efficiently and clean. It's been in existence for 20 years. It's tested twice a year by the DEC. It's also tested once annually by the Onondaga County Board of Health. It's never come close to failing a test over the 20 years. That's over 60 tests. The roads over which the ash have been transported to the facility have been occasionally tested, and there's been no problem, no contamination of the roads. Over 20 years, this ash has been disposed. There's been no problems in any of the spots it's been disposed. They currently take it to a landfill in the Rochester area, which in the Rochester area landfill uses as daily cover. There's no issues with it at all, and this landfill is still pursuing an extension of the contract to continue to take in the ash. Initially, I was very skeptical as to the safety, but now I firmly believe it's much safer than what we're currently putting into our landfill. So to summarize this deal, possibly $40 million swing in our finances. It's better environmentally, And it also begins a real nice partnership with Onondaga County, in which we can maybe join with them in other ventures. I don't want to gloss over, there are some negatives I'm going to talk about. There will be an additional 12 to 20 extra trucks a day at the landfill, depending upon the size they use. These are state-of-the-art trucks, and they're swapped out every 3 years, so they're good vehicles. They're going to have to follow a required route. They're going to get off on exit 13 in Homer. They're going to go East River Road, up Shipley Road. They won't be going through McGraw or any community. You know, they won't even see the trucks. The second negative is that the landfill life will be decreased. Right now, with current operations, it's about 23 and a half years, and it will be decreased to 18. If you noticed, 18 was the number I used for the finances earlier. That's the reason. We're anticipating writing the contract for 15 years with Onondaga County with a 5-year renewal. And our thinking is that after 15 years, whoever is on the legislature can then decide that they want to continue with the ash process, or do they want to go in a different direction. No matter what they do, they're going to have 3 more years of life in the landfill, and there should be plenty in the surplus fund to do whatever they want to do. We have found room for 2 more cells up at the landfill. Each one could be developed and would have about 20 more years of life if the legislature decided to go that way. All right. The third, obviously, is it's going to cost us some money. We've already approved $250,000 to an engineering firm and our environmental lawyer to do the testings and studies, to get the permits and do an environmental impact statement and so on. We are going to have to build a transfer station and some other things, and it's probably going to cost us over $1 million to get this up and running. Now, what if the ash for trash deal doesn't go through, if it fails? What's going to happen? Well, we can't do business as usual. It just isn't going to work. You know, it's too much money is involved and thing. I can only come up with 2 practical solutions. And the first one is flow control, which I said I was going to talk about a little bit later. If we went to flow control, there's going to be legal challenges. It'll probably be a good 2 years before we get through all the legal challenges. And we don't think there's really enough extra trash out there in the county that's going to make a whole big difference. If we do go to flow control, we're definitely going to have to up the tipping fees. And I've seen estimates to $150 a ton, from $60 to $150 a ton. I don't think anyone really wants to do that to the haulers and to the people of the community. Also, if you go to flow control, how do you enforce it? We might have to add staff or something on to make sure that people are not taking their trash out of the county. You know, it gives us another problem. You know, if you do go to flow control, you're going to decrease the life of the landfill the same way you're going to decrease it with ash. There's going to be more trash up there, more leachate, more methane, more bags and things blowing in the wind. And there's going to be more trucks, and some of those trucks are going to be going through McGraw and other municipalities. They're not going to have prescribed routes. They're going to be going every which way. You know, I'm not really a big fan of the flow control, but, you know, we may be forced in that area. And the other one that I can think of is again, going back and taking trash from outside of the county. It's going to be hard to attract large amounts of trash because we've got big private landfills not too far away in the Rochester area that are doing cheaper than the $60 we're doing right now. So it's not going to be very good. And again, if we do get outside trash, now we have no control over what's coming in. The life's going to be cut down. Again, more leachate, more trucks from all over the place. It's not anything that I would really like. I've voted twice against this already, but if the ash for trash deal fell through, I think the legislature may be forced to seriously consider it. I'm going to summarize.
Okay.
Sorry. I feel this county needs this deal very badly. I believe it's going to help us economically, and I believe it's better for the county environmentally. And I'd ask any opponents of this deal to please do 2 things for me. And one is to keep an open mind. We're doing tests right now. We're going to have an environmental impact statement, And the environmental impact statement should answer a lot of questions that I'm not going to be able to answer today, and so on. And if at the end of the environmental impact statement, people still aren't satisfied, their questions weren't answered, or they're not happy with the questions, then by all means, be opposed to the deal. That's your right, but I'm just asking you to please try and keep an open mind until the environmental impact statement comes in. And the second thing I'd like you to do is please consider the alternatives if the deal falls through. Even if you don't feel that this ash is 100% safe, consider that the county will probably be forced to take in trash from outside the county. And in my opinion, that's going to be even worse than any type of thing with the ash. And with that, I'm finished up.
Thank you. I'll give the other people on the front row an opportunity to speak if they wish, and then if you have questions, we'll entertain them. Tom, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I've been a legislator for 12 years. We've been down this road numerous times. And we keep coming to the same answer, that we can't find anything else to do with it. You can either leave it as it is, make it lose money, or continue to lose money. And if you say that money was mismanaged back when, well, that money went to roads, went to, culverts and everything. So the money was there but the county's been hurting so bad, it wasn't put it back into the general fund. So, mismanagement, I wouldn't say. I just feel that the Ensel report, ash for trash, maybe a combination of both, it might be our answer. But we don't even know if we're going to do this. There's a lot of moving parts yet to this that have got to happen. But it's something to look at. And I agree with John that we all should have open minds to at least look. Because if we don't, we'll never know. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Tom. Don?
Yeah.
You have some comments?
Certainly. I think I know there's going to be significant changes in regulations that are going to come down on the solid waste industry, which are going to require the county to invest significant amounts of money in dealing with organic waste, with construction and demolition debris, and also in much more increased in household hazardous waste. And then on the air side, most definitely we will need to invest in methane destruction methods in the future. All those issues that are coming are on top of the problems that are currently here that the county must deal with. So they're good, there are good things for the environment that are coming down as regulations from the DEC. Dealing with the organics is going to increase our recycling rate. Recycling the C&D as it comes in, separating it in the transfer station, and backhauling the C&D to Onondaga County will divert a large portion of our solid waste stream to be recycled. So there's good, the regulations are going to be beneficial to the environment. However, they don't come free. It's going to require substantial investments by the county in infrastructure and people to make those programs work. So not that they're bad regulations that are coming. They are necessary and they are coming, and so that's something that the county will need to handle also, above and beyond the issues that are there. And it certainly will cause a substantial financial burden.
Thank you, Deb. Have the county administrator talk about whatever finances or whatever.
I would just add that, as we're moving forward, we're trying to nail down some of the unknowns at this time. When we do these public presentations, we give you the best information we have at that time. As I say, as we go further along in this process and investigating this, things change, and in particular the numbers change. as we get more accurate estimates on things, as we continue to negotiate the rate that we would accept the ash at what price, the numbers will change. So I would just say that, again, as we get the information, we give it to you. It's the best information we have at that time, but many things are liable to change as we go forward. I know that, some people say, well, you told us this at that time. Well, again, that was the best information we had at that time. But as we learn new things and we nail down estimates to a closer figure, those are the information, those are the figures that we'll share at that time. Okay?
Pat?
I've been accused of being hired to push this project through, and I want you to know that that's the farthest thing from the truth. I was hired to advise the county to make sure that the environmental review process worked properly. Now, what is that process? It's centered around an environmental impact statement. A draft environmental impact statement is being produced right now by the county's engineers. It'll probably be done within a month or two. After it's accepted by the county, there'll be a public comment period of at least 30 days, possibly longer. There'll be a public hearing. All of the issues that are raised by the public will be addressed in a final environmental impact statement. And only after each involved agency makes findings on the final environmental impact statement can the legislature or any other involved agency make a decision on the project, whether to approve it or to approve with conditions or just deny it and give up on the process. And I don't envision that happening until the fall or around this year. Also, you're probably aware that there's a scoping process going on right now. The goal of scoping is to advise the county and the engineers that are writing the draft EIS as to what should be put into the draft environmental impact statement and what level of detail should be considered in the draft environmental impact statement. So that process is going on now, and it may evolve over time. But I can assure you that the county and all the involved agencies are a long, long ways away from making a decision on whether to proceed with this.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've got about 30 minutes left, and we've got time for questions or comments. But if everybody spoke, we'll only have about a minute apiece. And trying to do it in an orderly fashion. Why don't we start with the first row, and if you want to speak, speak. If not, just pass. Then we'll go to the next row, and that way everyone will have an opportunity, and I won't have to pick who raised their hand first or not. So we'll start with Newell. Do you have any?
Don, a question for you. Approximately how many tons of shale do you have to use in the course of a year up there?
Well, I would say it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of the tonnage of waste that we put in there, maybe even a little bit more. So we're probably putting somewhere around 30,000 tons of shale here, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So we're using 30,000 tons up there now. It costs a lot of money
Roughly.
to take out.
Yes.
And we're talking about bringing in 90. So really, there's only a 60,000 ton difference. Am I correct there?
Yes, that's correct.
Andy?
Only question I got is, how long does this look like it's going to take to get this, if you do go for it, before you can start operating it?
Right now, we're shooting for May of 2015. That's when their current contract is up with the landfill. They're taking the trash for now. So that's what we're shooting for. Maybe a little bit optimistic. That's the date we're looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah, as representing the board for Willett, we have talked about it quite immensely. We feel that is a good option. The county cannot afford, the taxpayers of the county cannot afford more taxes to try to maintain this. And this appears to us to be a good option. It appears to us to be a safe option. The garbage is all processed. There's nothing more going in it than what's going in it right now, and it is safer because right now you don't know what's going in it. And we have taken the stance of adopting a resolution, supporting it, and we have forwarded it to the legislature stating so.
Thank
I have three concerns at this time. The first one being that the three persons that were most involved in this, I think were Mr. Troy, Mr. Chambers, and Mr. Park, and unfortunately, Mr. Chambers is going on to a new career move, and Mr. Park stepped off. So now we're left with one person that has the most experience. So I have a concern, with that. The other is, my major concerns with the monies that were brought into the landfill, as Mr. Hartnett had said, when there was a positive cash flow to the landfill, and why that money wasn't used to protect the landfill in the future. We kind of put ourselves in this position. I'll reserve my decision for the ash for trash till the SECA process like it to be carried out. But those are my major concerns.
Yeah, and along those lines, I want to make clear that the landfill is not the Solon landfill. It's the Cortland County landfill, and technically the landfill isn't even in Solon. It's in Homer and Cortlandville. So with that out of the way, I've been a neighbor to that landfill for the last 30 years, and I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I'm pretty sure. My main concern as a citizen is I'm reading the highway minutes from November 4th, 2004. It's been 10 years. We have been beating on this thing for 10 years, and we have not come to a decision. And what bothers me is we as a county, we didn't even bother. There was talk of a compactor to take care of the tires and the construction material that the county would buy, to use that as cover. I've seen the cover. If you guys really want to see how it's covered, do me a favor and go to Google Earth. You will see how it's not covered, and that's why a lot of this trash is flying around. My concern is you left out an option. What would it take to close it? And why can't we close it? This has been such a burden on this county for years and years and years. And back in '04, we kind of had the answers, but nobody wanted to move on it. Implement a higher rate, the tipping fee. Where are these guys going to go? They're not going to leave. They're going to raise it. They're going to, pass it on to their customers. I know the whole deal with flow control, and I know it's going to make one of the large haulers mad, and he's going to sue the county. So be it. Isn't that the price of doing business? You guys have to do what's best for this county. And this is 10 years old. And it continues to this point. If it's that much of a hassle up there, close it. Let's use this money and close it and be done with it. It sounds like we're to that point. And now we're going to, this is our problem. We made this problem. This is our monster. And now we're reaching out to another county to ask for help? Come on, guys.
I don't know if, I'm not the expert to answer this, but I do know that we can't just close it and walk away.
That's what I'm being
There are
told, but
expenses that would be incurred, but.
an answer as to why we can't.
We're still going to have leachate, we still have the debt service.
Agreed.
We're going to be paying all the debt with no income from it.
So it's going to cost us more to close it than to do another option. But yet we had the options in front of us. Raise the fee, flow control, within our own, locally, us. No, keep it in mind.
Well, we are going to.
Keep that in mind. Let's fix this problem locally.
I come to listen.
Appreciate that. Catherine? Jim?
How many other landfills are there in New York State?
26, 25.
We heard that downstairs, didn't we? There were 26, so do they? Yes.
26.
Publicly owned? Private.
Okay.
Seneca Meadows, Tompkins.
Jim?
I had a couple questions, and I don't have any dog in this hunt either. I'm just, like Joe Steinhoff said best when a lot of us were thinking on the Solid Waste Committee, that we just want to do what's right for the people in the county. That's our biggest concern, and right now we don't know anything. I mean, all we have is a whole bunch of questions, and But a couple of the questions that come to my mind is, if we go to Onondaga County, we're gonna have flow control anyway. And it seems like that we've almost gotta get started down that road so we can solve that problem. We don't wait until, either way, it's gonna be to our financial benefit I've seen figures in the paper that there's like, and I don't know where they come up with it, 7,000 tons that isn't coming into the landfill now. Well, 7,000 times 60 is that 400 and some thousand that we're looking at, okay? And, that's kind of a question. The other thing is this composting. If we go down to Onondaga County, we have to do the same thing anyway. That's where we're headed. You say it's an additional cost, but we're gonna have to meet that cost anyway, okay? So this composting business being an issue, some of these issues that you're talking about are, it's gonna happen anyway. So you can't really say it's a negative against keeping our landfill as it is. It's a negative that's gonna happen whether we do it or not. And there are a number of questions like that I think we talk about these questions, but we're not getting any answers yet. And I know a lot of it will come out of the seeker process, and we look forward to that, to start getting some answers. But even the committee itself just doesn't have the information yet, and we're really looking forward to that because I want to be able to stand up to my constituent and say, well, here's the minuses, here's the pluses, and on balance, this is what we had to do. Okay, so I'm eagerly looking for that, but there are issues here that you're talking about that the way they're presented are presented in a slant towards one way, which is the ash for trash. And I think we need to stand back from that a minute and be truly nonpartisan in our approach and not just look at just the money, but what is it going to cost us if we have to do this anyway, whether we keep the landfill or not.
I think you're in an excellent position on the solid waste committee to raise those. So that's good.
We all of us on this committee have that concern, okay? And I know Mr. Troy does, and all of us sitting on this committee, even the ones that kind of are leaning towards the ash for trash sounds like a great deal, but the reason is because we've heard the one side, and now we need to hear the other side so that we can weigh the two and say this is the least. It's not a question of between good and bad. It's a question of what's good or a little bit better or what's bad and a little bit worse. And those are the hard decisions to make, and we need to make those, and we will be.
Thank you, Jim. Kathy?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that some of you went down to hear the other program. And one of the things we learned there from a hydrogeological standpoint is that it's to have the safest landfill, you want it on impermeable soils. And most of the sites left up there at the landfill have very shallow soil, like we're mining shale and very near the surface, and that does not make a good, safe undergirding for a landfill in case of leaks.
Yeah.
So just what we heard down there is that, yes, we've got the land left for more cells, but we may not have the best sites because of these very shallow soils. So I hope you'll keep that in mind as you deliberate. Then the other thing I've heard is that, we do know about the Part 360 DEC regs coming down, but I believe that they have said they have no timetable and they're not even sure that they're all going to be implemented for all landfills. So, that's another thing you have to keep in mind. They're not set in stone yet, but it's good that you're thinking about them. Then, just want to clarify two things you said, John. Don, if flow control comes in, there still would be a designated route to the landfill, right? I mean, there was a designated truck route now, and that shouldn't change if there's flow control, right?
There is a designated route, and that would be the designated route. But if you're having trucks that are coming from different areas, that's making the assumption that most of the traffic is coming from basically the Cortland urbanized area. Well, that's not necessarily the case.
But it doesn't really. Trucks are coming from all different places now anyway.
Right. But a lot of the traffic does come up the 13 corridor at this point, and that assumption that they're all coming from the city of Cortland isn't really 100% accurate.
Right.
So they could have other ways of gaining access to the landfill other than the specified route.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. And John, I think maybe you misspoke when you said we are flaring now at the landfill. I think that's part,
Yeah.
one of the Part 360
That's what we're gonna
regs
need to
we
do,
may
yes,
need to do.
you're right, I
Right
did
now,
misspoke. Yeah,
the
thank you.
methane is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
escaping.
Yeah, we're gonna have, yes, yep,
Okay,
thank you. Yep.
Next.
All of the proposals that you talked about as solving, ways of solving the financial problems that we're in regarding our garbage, have the same thing in common, and that's more garbage. We have to get more and more and more garbage into our landfill. And I don't think that's the trend right now. Our trend is to divert more, recycle more, be smarter consumers. This is the way we're raising our children. That trend is only going to continue and get, stronger and stronger. Even the counties next door are diverting, what, in the 60% of their garbage or more? Does that sound right? What's Tompkins County?
Well, and that is indeed what we're looking at doing by increasing, backhauling the CMD and allowing access to the commercial haulers that would be picking up from the institutions to take organics to be recycled, and also taking the construction and demolition debris to be recycled in Onondaga County. By backhauling it, it would be diverting that material from landfills, the organics and the construction and demolition debris. So that would, right now, just the construction and demolition debris would basically triple our recycling rate just by that one aspect alone. So that is indeed what we are looking at doing by forming a partnership, using the facilities that are already built, rather than building twin facilities in a county a few miles away. We're trying to utilize the facilities that are currently constructed and currently staffed, rather than doing it again in this county. So it's just trying to work together and divert material. That's exactly what we're looking at.
I'm just concerned that you're building this profit model on a waste stream that's only going to be decreasing. So do we need to rethink that? I don't know.
We'll be
Good
decreasing.
point.
Yeah.
Dan?
What is the cost to cap a cell? And what is the cost to open a new cell?
Well, all of it, they'll
Put it
be
down.
down.
Well, right now, on our current, the last construction that we built, to build airspace, probably with interest, it's probably about $16 a ton just to construct, with our current type of operations, just to construct, not to operate, not to do the closures or anything. We actually just opened up bids on our closure project that is anticipated this year, and the closure project is going to cost somewhere just short of $1.5 million for 6 acres.
Have we been saving any money to reserve for that? I mean, it's just, running a deficit, I assume, no?
Actually, the county has been putting money every year into 2 different reserves. One is a closure reserve, and one is an equipment reserve. Presently, at the end of 2013, our closure reserve was less than $500,000.
Just a comment. I got a pretty open mind, and I'm glad to be here listening tonight, but what worries me is that we seem to be more concerned about the money over the sustainability of our community. We don't want to let trash leave the county. We want more and more trash. We're afraid to raise our tipping fees. We want to trade, this ash that's already been spent has nothing good to offer, the environment down here. But we're willing to trade all of our good food scraps that we could actually compost here and put on our own gardens and give to our own farmers and help nourish our own community. As they say, we've only got between 18 and 20 years left in that landfill. Why don't we, and like it's been said, if we keep teaching our kids the way we are, we're gonna need less and less of that space each and every year. But I think, maybe instead of trying to attract more trash just to keep the bills paid, You know, maybe if we put some effort into educating the public about, you know, creating less trash, instead of attracting and wanting more of it, you know, let's teach them how to, you know, create less of it. Just a thought, thanks.
In the news this morning, Onondaga County is talking about letting their plant go back to the company that built it in the 20 years. Is that, you know, what's going to happen if we make a deal with Onondaga County and it goes back to this other company?
Okay.
Before the county would be entering into any agreement, that is going to be resolved long before we're even through the seeker process. So that shouldn't be an issue at that point.
And I think when John started speaking, he said none of this plan has been set in stone. There are a lot of variables that are going on, and who knows?
We've only set a contract, we only signed it wasn't a contract, but just to pursue it. We haven't signed anything yet that obligates us to anything.
So good question.
Yeah.
Gentleman behind?
From the board of McGraw, we would never agree to have a landfill or an ash landfill or any kind. Just from the village's standpoint, the landfill sits 2,200 feet from Mosquito Creek, which actually generates right at the T of the two roads there that go to the landfill. And Mosquito Creek flows to Trout Brook, which flows through the village, obviously. And we're on our own water system, which generates from two wells, which are only 30 feet deep, aquifers. So with that said, which is 3.04 miles from the active cell to our wells downhill. So from a board standpoint, we can't see. We've got the Superfund site up on South Hill. It was just cleaned up not too long ago, and we can just see another, you know, in the future, a Love Canal situation or something happening. So that's from the board. My own personal, I'm doing my research. I've written the letters to the editor. I've, you know, just trying to make sense of the numbers. I had a long talk last night with Mr. Park, and trying to come to, you know, trying to see everything from every side, so I'm not going to say too much here. But could I?
You're doing diligence.
Well, I'm learning, and I really appreciate this meeting here, because this settles a lot of answers, or answers a lot of questions too. That, could I pick on Mr. Tobin just for a second? Going along with... Sure. We're going along the lines of, I've heard people saying about grinding and brush and green and everything. Why is the city running a $250,000 grinder, grinding brush for the village of Homer and the town of Cortland residents? Every landscaper in the county drags their brush up there. The city of Cortland grinds the brush for free. And then, so you've got this big grinder running, you've got a wheel loader running to load it.
Is this something that maybe we could talk about?
Yeah, all right, something, yeah. It goes along with lines of recycling and such like that, but it could save the city some money, so, all right.
We can talk now.
All right.
That's up to you, you like. All right, Linda and Brian.
No, I'm passing.
And you may answer or whatever you want.
I can
I'll
talk about that
we'll
after you
talk
guys
later.
gave 7 more minutes, so let's stay on
Okay.
topic. Those that don't know, Brian Tobin, I'm here representing the city, and in particular, the fact that we have a wastewater treatment plant. Those that don't know, the leachate or the runoff from the landfill does go to the wastewater treatment plant and gets, for lack of a better word, cleaned before it's put back into the environment. And I have a couple questions about the composition, the breakdown of the ash and the testing. And some of these questions you can't answer at some point if we can. But the ash, as I understand, has been tested. And one of the questions, talking with our chief operator, was it tested as a solid? Because I understand, I was here when you showed the sample, it's a solid, it's pretty chunky. But over time, I'm imagining that would break down. Has it been tested in different states? Has it been tested as a solid? What happens if that breaks?
The testing, we use a standard testing method, and that's prescribed by the EPA and New York State DEC. So there's a prescribed testing method. And this ash would be consolidated in the landfill and capped, so it's going to be encapsulated. It basically turns into a low-grade concrete. And as far as the leachate that would be generated, that we plan on having some meetings with the city, the county, and our engineer will want to meet with the wastewater treatment plant. And that's something that we need to do, and we're working on information to present to the wastewater treatment.
Excellent, we'd be more than happy to meet with you because we have additional questions about the alkalinity. Does that change?
And that's certainly, we will have data from various other landfills as well as from the test results, and we will be able to give your wastewater treatment facility that information.
Very good.
Okay.
And Brian, as you know, I'm the chair of the wastewater treatment plant advisory board, so you got a good liaison there. Go back and forth.
But that's something that is being studied at this point.
And the last request is that any testing that is done, making sure that there is an independent third party, which, just as we all know, is good general business practice, so that there is no opportunity for, okay, is it objective, is it not objective? Simple request from us.
Okay, and that question about the grinder, I think that's a very
come back
good
to that.
topic for us to discuss. That's what CCTVS is all about, municipalities working together. So, you know, I'm not shutting you off, but we gotta stay on topic.
Okay, I would like to reserve some of my questions for after more testing and it's been done and what have you. However, I would like to know if sludge will still continue to be accepted as is.
I'm sorry?
Sludge. Will
Yes,
sludge
we're still
continue?
planning that, yes. Yeah, it won't be completely changed into an ash landfill. We're still gonna keep the permit, so the sludge will be mixed in with the ash. Am I saying that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Being on the solid waste committee, and being new, this has kind of been like, wow, I'm scared, kind of want to run away from it, just go far. But, I mean, like everyone said, on the surface, it does appear to be a good deal, but personally, I'm reserving all of my severe opinions for when we get the environmental study back. I want to see the data before I decide what's going to happen, because like I said, this could not happen. We could get the information back, and it could say, it's not good for you, it's not going to work, we just feel it's not a good option. And just like everyone else, even if whether you live in McGraw, Solon, or Homer, or Cortland, like, it still affects all of us as a whole, because county taxes or county tax, it doesn't really matter, we're all going to be affected by what happens at that dump. Every single one of us. I mean, even as legislators, we pay taxes too, we live here, I mean, I'm raising a family here, I want to make sure that everything is safe. I don't want to live someplace that we all feel is unsafe. And yes, we do need to encourage our children and our families to reduce the trash. In the end, I think that is the main goal. We should try to reduce the amount of trash we create, because eventually the planet is going to run out of space, so we'll have nowhere to put it anyway. But until we do get our information back, I really encourage everyone, call your legislator, email your legislator. You see them on the street, stop and talk to them. I mean, so I'm going to say honestly, we may not think of every single question that could be asked. And if we can get as many questions as possible, if we get that draft back, if we don't see the answers to all the questions that are definitely pertinent, we'll reject it. We'll say we want a better draft. We want these questions answered before we accept this deal. We want to know that everyone's questions have been answered and that everything is going to be safe. So I encourage you all, call us, email us, do whatever you have to do to get us the information. Because if we don't hear from you, or if we only hear from you at these meetings, we're not getting as much of the information as we could. And everyone else, you aren't getting the information that you could be getting. We want to answer your questions. I want to answer your questions because I want to know the same things.
Thank you. Barb?
Pass. Hi. I'm really excited about this meeting because it's, I think, the first time for me that we actually have back and forth and not a silent legislator for us who like to talk. And I'm hearing there are some serious moral concerns. One for the residents near the Okra, the incineration sites, the dioxin, the high level of cancers. They worry about the water for McGraw, and I agree with the holistic perspective. We are all citizens of this globe. I'm embarrassed coming out of the DEC meeting, hearing that we are at a low 20% of recycling. I don't produce half a pound of trash a day because of the work that I do. It's RRM, as the DEC suggests. Reuse, recycle, reduce, and minimize. I'll add another R, I suppose. And the college where I work has just cut the food waste, right? By 1,400 pounds of food waste per week. ESC has done that. And actually, John, it's not an expensive affair because they decided to go with Larry Jones, who gratefully accepts it and turns it into compost, using it for fertilizer and then selling it to individuals like me to garden. Right? So it's, I think, very much a win-win situation. So I'm wondering if you as a committee are really thinking about the citizens. What is our responsibility in reducing trash to really the zero waste that we should be heading towards, right? And the question I have for you is, the governor has sponsored programs through NYSERDA for biomass, and you've heard me talk before about gasifiers and basically composting facilities that I've visited in Germany that are harvesting the methane. The methane is not an evil thing, it's a wonderful syngas. If you can do it at a level that is profitable. Of course, I understand we have to be wise about that. To think of really the clean energy, or really thinking of waste, if we have waste left, that we're turning it into money. So it is not something that we'll just put in the land and forget about it, or deal with toxins, leachates, and so forth. Right? And so in terms of the citizen education, I was grateful for the mayor to sponsor this mayor challenge for the energy champions amongst us. And so we got a group together of 5 people. And there's so many things I learned through this process. And I thought I was fairly educated already. So I wonder if the county could take that on as a challenge for all of us to really reduce and insulate our houses and so forth. And so my question, can you answer the question about, have you studied the governor's proposals of the 10 communities that have gotten some kind of biomass projects funded?
Are you directing that to me or to Tom?
No, we have not.
No.
But with that suggestion, that's.
That can be done.
Sandy, I'm short like you, so I'll get up.
Yeah, okay, yes, that's good.
I'm here just as a citizen. First, I want to thank you for all you do, because I don't think you get half the credit for all the hard decisions you have to make, all of you. Environmentally, I think the ash is going to be way better than what's going in there now. I think there'll be more recycling done in Syracuse. I think this is exactly what the governor in New York is pushing for, shared services, much as they're doing in the schools, where each county cannot afford all the mandates on their own, so you split up the duties, and Syracuse is in a position larger to help us out a great deal. So environmentally, I think this is a win. Money, well, no one wants to talk money, but let me tell you, a friend had to sell their house recently because they couldn't pay the taxes. Money matters. It's no good to live here, to be here, if you can't afford to live here. It's, that's a real concern. And the other thing is, if you just close our dump, well, before we had a good dump in this area, I live on a road in a beautiful setting in the country where they dumped it in the river. There's quite an old dump there. And that's what people do when they can't afford to have their garbage picked up. I've been on roads where I've come into where they've dumped it all over. So there are hard decisions to make, and this isn't, Wonderland. Things have to be looked from all angles, and money does matter. People can't live if they can't afford to live here.
Our time is up, but only about 2/3 of the people have had an opportunity to speak. Is it agreeable that we extend time? Okay, next row then. Genevieve, are you in next row?
No, I just want to say I appreciate the forum as it stands right now, and I understand the fiscal responsibility this is taking on. Good luck.
I wasn't going to say anything, but this is so fascinating. So it is clearly a question of the lesser of many evils. No one is going to be happy in the long run so we're going to have to look for the least unhappiness. I think also we have to really think outside the box. If we're talking about that landfill being filled in 18 years, basically we're selling her children's future away. Because if you think a landfill is expensive now, you can't imagine what a new one will cost in 18 years. So I would say among the most important factors is extending the life of the landfill. And listening to people speak, I hear something very interesting. Countries like Finland, entire countries, are already up to 85% recycling. Our terrible number downstairs of 20% could, in the blink of an eye, turn into 60, could conceivably turn into more. So let's say we could get to 80 with a little work. Our 25,000 tons of trash times 80% reduction becomes 5,000 tons of trash. The 5,000 covered in an equal weight of landfill is 10,000 tons. If we did that, A, the landfill would last much longer, but B, if there's a fiscal issue and you're trading lesser of two evils, it might be possible to take a small amount of ash from Syracuse, just equal to the weight or volume that we have in order to satisfy the financial problem, and that compresses the volume even more because it's about a 2-to-1 and there's no fill. So then you've extended the landfill a factor of 5 times by recycling, a factor of 5 times more, 2 times more, total of 10 times. The 18 years changes into 180 years. Maybe you have to put a little cover on the ash, because the truth is it will turn out to be toxic in some ways when we start to go into it in detail. So I'm just saying to John, etc., really look at all the possibilities. The answer will probably not be what's been proposed so far.
I don't have a question or a comment, but I truly appreciate this forum, and I've learned a lot tonight, so thank you.
I just come to listen to everyone's concerns. I'll let you know. Someone wants to speak?
Oh, okay. I can speak for you.
Okay.
It's, one, Onondaga wants our truck. They want to be to 100% capacity. So it's not like we're asking the neighboring county to take our stuff. They want it. December, I went to Okra and had a whole tour to there. And I would really recommend people to go. They're open arms with that stuff. You're talking about recycling. They recycle inside the facility because those incinerators that they have can only take and incinerate certain stuff, metals, stuff like that. They can't. So they already separate this out, and it's such a fascinating thing that they have there. And next thing you know, how many people, other than some, how many people chuck out old batteries and just put them in the landfill, in the garbage? They actually shred the stuff up, and they actually take those out and recycle them. So the recycling process is already there, and that's where they make part of their money. So Onondaga County right now, they're hurting. They're like, I think, $1 million in the hole because of this. But if they had our trash, they come down here instead of going to Rochester for fuel and for tolls and stuff, it's a win-win. You're not putting nasty garbage, into this landfill. What I'd like to know is I'd like to see what the reports are for the wastewater treatment plant. That's what I'd like to see. I think it was on your county webpage. You already had the report for the testing. It was already there. Where I think the only thing they ever found was barium. Yeah. So that was 1 milligram, and I think the EPA limits 100 milligrams. Half the stuff that's in there is already natural stuff that you already see. So when you really take a look at some of this here, they've got 19 years of testing, stuff like that. I think it's a win-win. And Town of Scott backs you up 100% for this. We can actually use $400,000 that we don't have to take out of the coffers every time, especially when we're starting to get limited on tax cap. So, you know, you got our support on that. Thank you.
Thank you. At our recycling center, we have started taking batteries. So that's a good news for Cortland County, and we're trying to get the word out, so we appreciate the opportunity. I'd also-
People do throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
Well, the other one, if you really want to push it, is how many throw away their smoke detectors? When they're bad, they're broken. People chuck them. Americium 241, alpha emitter radioactive material, you throw in there instead of recycling.
I would also like to thank Supervisor Finch for suggesting that the CCTVS address this topic tonight. So, thank you.
First, I want to say I'm coming from a place of love and respect, so nobody feels attacked, but I don't always agree with everything you say. So, what I think I'm a little gun shy because I've witnessed another situation in the county where they put the cart before the horse. And I think when you come full barrel, I felt, oh God, here we go again. And I think what some of us are thinking in this room is that there probably is another answer which is more progressive and in the direction that the world is going. But it might seem too cosmopolitan for Cortland, but if we put as much energy and research into the sustainability avenue as we are into exploring the ash for trash, and then could put like the pros and cons of each one next to each other, then we could all honestly say, what's going to work for this county? What's going to work for what we can afford in our future? And another concern I have is, are we locked into that 15 years? Like, is there a reason for the 15 years? Because a lot can happen in the world with trash in 15 years. And another question I was concerned about was, on the radio it said something about that if Syracuse doesn't come up with a solution by 2015, that they'd have to sell that whole incinerator to some private company for $1. So I'm thinking that we feel locked in, they feel locked in, they don't want to sell it for $1, so we're all kind of moving along without giving it as much thought as 15 years should warrant. Do you know anything about that $1 deal?
They're negotiating with the Covanta company, and it's going to be decided a long time before we have to make any decisions. What's the contract situation between Okra and Covanta, their parent company, I guess. Am I saying that correctly?
But we have
Yes.
nothing to do with that, is that correct?
We have nothing to do with that.
In Onondaga County.
We have nothing, no.
Onondaga, I'm
Certain
sorry.
legislators in Onondaga County have gone on record as saying before they let Covanta take it over and import out-of-county trash, they will go through eminent domain and take possession of that plant.
And they're very, very serious about it. I don't see, and if that does happen, it's also, Onondaga was also saying that the trash deal could happen too, because you need somebody to run it and you need someplace for the ash to go, so.
As to your 15-year question, there's nothing set yet. We haven't signed a contract. They obviously want assurance of some time for further trash. So we've been playing with the 15-year number, but it's not in stone or anything.
But I would like to say that, I sense the love and respect that you talk about, because this has been wonderful.
Do you know how long the contract they currently have was with the Rochester facility?
I don't know. All I know is it expires in May of 2015. It's been at least 8 years, would you say, Dan?
I haven't seen the contract.
I'm just guessing, so I
can't.
don't know for sure.
Okay. Next.
I came to listen and to learn.
Okay.
I got here a little late. Maybe some of these things that I would have to say have already been covered. I'm sorry.
if I'm repeating myself. About 3 weeks ago, there was another meeting here about trash, and a man named Paul Hartnett, who wrote this book, Zero Trash, presented this thing. And he's been studying this whole trash situation, he said, for 18 years. And he cites a lot of people who've been studying it for even longer than he has. And so we maybe need to do a little bit more study. And one of the things he was very skeptical of was this ash for trash thing. For one thing, he mentioned there are other counties in the area that have been offered this sort of deal and they've turned it down. He wonders why. And maybe we should look into that. That is not true. Not true? No. We're the only county that Onondaga's talked to. So Nobody else. They have made no offers to any other county. Well, that's strange. Counties to the north of them, east of them, and west of them. Why wouldn't they have made this offer to these others?
Their permits won't allow it. There's a permit amount of tonnage, and we were the fit for that.
Our tonnage fits with their decrease in tonnage, let's put it that way. And we're the only county that they've talked to, unless they're lying to us, which I doubt. He's very skeptical about the safety of this whole business, and we need to look more deeply into that. I would also like to piggyback on the people who are talking about more composting. There was an article in the paper the other day about the SUNY Cortland starting to compost things out of their thing. I would say that you people should also encourage our public schools and all our restaurants, as well as private people to do the same thing. About 10 years ago, they were selling compost bins at the recycle center. I have a couple of them in my backyard, and I put out a blue bag maybe twice a year. Most of my stuff I compost or recycle. And we need to encourage more people to do that sort of thing. It's not only, you know, they talk about yard clippings and things of that nature. There's a lot more that you can recycle in yard clippings. If you use a facial tissue, if you have to blow your nose, that can still be recycled. The cardboard cores of paper towels and paper and toilet paper can be recycled and can be composted, either one. So those things need to be brought out. We need a lot more education along those lines and a lot more encouragement along those lines for more people to get involved in. People just don't give a hoot. It takes a lot of prodding to get more people involved. Couldn't agree with you more.
We're getting towards the end, but keep going.
What's that?
We're getting, the person next to you, if you want to speak.
I beg your pardon?
We
were asking that.
I just came from downstairs, and there were some issues about budgeting. This $400,000 a year loss that we're getting. That seemed very suspect. And I'm just curious if you folks have really studied and calculated where these figures are coming from.
Yes.
The short answer is yes.
The difficulty in looking at the county budget, this is an enterprise fund, and not all of the transactions that occur are shown in the budget. There's a lot of general ledger accounting that's required in government accounting that's done. So it's difficult to look at the county budget and conclude, unless you're a government accountant, to ascertain exactly where the monies are and how the interfund transfers are working.
Well, I would say that some of the slides that were shown downstairs would be very helpful to all of you, because that made it very clear, and it wasn't as complicated as you just described. But your budget is, your budget that you have out there is complicated. I'll agree with that.
Mr. Landfill himself, it's your turn.
My wife told me to keep my mouth shut today.
You always
But
do
I
what she
can't.
says.
They advertise on TV all the time now for the older folks. If somebody comes by with a real good deal, be suspect of it. This whole ash to trash program sounds really good, but I'm suspect of it. But I have a suspicious mind. Secondly, we know what's in the shale that we cover the landfill with. The ash looked suspect to me when there was samples taken just recently and the county got the results of it. It looked terrible that the county did not have their own sample takers there taking the samples. It would have been much smoother, and I know there would have been a cost, but it just, when you send somebody out to, don't say there's nothing in it, it's a nice material. It's suspect when we don't have our own people there, and we should have had. And finally, if this is such a nice material that comes from Onondaga County, why don't they have their own ash landfill in Onondaga County? That's the end of the story.
Some good things to think about.
Yes.
Grant, would you like to comment?
Thank you.
Okay. Videographer, did you have a comment?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for your patience in letting things go a little later. Next month, we had talked about doing public transportation, so it's another important topic, so thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
I could have given that a hard time.